Oh, you damn right. Recruiting never stops. It's the Recruiting Insider once again on OB Live. That's your Recruiting Insider right there. It's Jason Sukumel, orangebloods.com. Thanks to Longhorn Wealth Management Group and John for being our great sponsor. We'll tell you more about them coming up. Jason, it is that game. It's that week. Obviously, Texas comes off of a tough one, but it's Texas OU time. And in recruiting, we will talk occasionally about, does a game really matter? Does the result of a game really matter and all that kind of stuff? But let's dig into this week. For those that haven't kept up with your nerdy football stuff, Texas will wear the burnt orange jerseys, which means they're technically the home team this year, which means, Jason, what are you allowed to do in recruiting when it comes to Dallas?
Give away free tickets. That's about it. You can have recruits at the game as your guest, but you can't talk to them. You can't have any face-to-face interaction. I don't think, Chad, I don't think you can like FaceTime from the locker. I don't think you can even do anything like that anymore. So I think teams were finding loopholes, and I think they've even nixed that. So, and truth be told, these coaches are so hyper-focused on that game. They don't want to be doing recruiting. I mean, I say that, and I remember the morning of the Ohio State game. Of course, that was a road game. Guys like Chris Jackson was like sending videos to players. So maybe they do something like that. It's a 2:30 kick.
Right.
Maybe they
just can't be face to face, right?
Yeah. Once those guys are at the game, the recruits are at the game, you can't have face-to-face contact. You certainly can't talk to them. Could you wave to them from the field? Maybe something simple like that.
Okay.
But the good news is Texas can host all the guys it wants to and give them tickets to the game. On the flip side of that, you need to go out and put on a good performance in front of those guys. You don't want to. Oklahoma was the home team last year and didn't work so well for them. So so Texas is the home team. They can technically host recruits at this game, which means give your guys tickets, let them watch the game, let them soak up the atmosphere, the experience, and maybe hope they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, this is obviously one of the most unique games in college football. To me, it's the most special neutral site game college football has created, and these recruits get to see it. So let's go through some of the names here, Jason, because as I read through your 3-2-1 article at orangebloods.com, and I'll throw up the QR code as you're answering, but some pretty big names are going to be a part of this and get to look at that atmosphere.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Texas commitments, and I'm still building up this visit list. I'm going to mass DM and text a bunch of guys, so keep an eye on Orange Bloods for that. But so far, just in my conversations over the last couple of months, a lot of the Texas commitments will be there. There'll be some 2027 guys there. A lot of out-of-state commitments. Samari Matthews will be there, the cornerback out of Carolina. Hayward Howard, the cornerback out of Louisiana. Derrick Cooper, the running back out of Florida. Dia Bell, I think, is going to be there.
Okay.
I actually hit him up today to double confirm because he's had the injury. So I think he's still coming in. J.J. Johnson, the D tackle out of Florida. Dylan Berryman, D tackle out of Louisiana. And then you'll have guys like Turntine, John Turntine being a local guy. He'll certainly be there. So, a lot in that 2026 group. I mean, it's mostly going to be committed guys. There aren't a lot of uncommitted targets. But, again, it's a good chance to bring those guys in, get them together, which is always a good thing. And then secondly, be like, hey, guys, check out this badass environment you're going to get to play in every year when you're here at Texas. And then, some of those 2027 guys, you just try to lay the foundation for those guys.
The only thing I could say, the only guys I would say that they could compare to, if you're thinking about Georgia or Florida, the cocktail party is the only thing I think that comes close. But the pro stadium takes away a little environment to me. I think they split the seats wrong. This is an outsider observer. I didn't go to any of the four schools. But the way they split the seats to me is wrong. And the way Texas and OU does it is extra special. And it's so unique, Jason, that if I'm just going to take Derrick Cooper as an example. Every other school can make arguments to Derrick Cooper, but only Texas gets to make the argument of, you want to come play in this game? We do this every year, and it's the most incredible thing you'll ever witness. And then you can get to be a part of it, how many times you want to do it. Nowadays, I guess it's only 2 or 3, right? But theoretically, you could do it 4 or 5 times if you really want to.
Or 8 if you're the Vanderbilt quarterback.
If you're Diego Pavi, you can do it 10 times. That's a totally different story. You can invite
he started in junior college, he transferred in. But yeah, you get the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, you didn't the state fair going on around it. I mean,
yep.
I mean, it is to me like how many neutral game environments are there? There are not many in college football. This is the best, most unique one. I mean, it just is. Like you said,
Yeah.
I love that it's in the Cotton Bowl, not in a pro stadium, the fair, the way the crowd's divided. I mean, frankly, the hatred between those two states.
Yeah.
I mean, it is unique. It is, with all due respect to Georgia, Florida, this is the best neutral. I'm not saying it's the best game every year because you have great games. I mean, Texas, Ohio State was a great build up to that game. But in terms of a game that's played every single year, especially on a neutral field, there's nothing like this one.
Yeah, and a reminder, Jason, as I'm reading through the 3-2-1 and thinking about the game, because I'm a believer, and you always back me off of this, but I always like to think that, you know, results do matter to recruits. They're watching a game. Did the team they're thinking about get blown out? Did the team they're thinking about lose? Blah, blah, blah. Well, last week, you know, Texas guys would have seen the team lose a disappointing game. It was close in the end. It's not like Texas got blown. Texas didn't have what Penn State had last week. It wasn't that, but it's still disappointing. But some of your notes were interesting. Talk a little bit about, you got the chance to check in with a couple of the, I believe it's both defensive guys, right, that are committed, and their reaction to last week I thought was kind of telling.
Yeah, you know, I talked to a few guys, and I'll have more on Orange Blitz throughout the week, but I did feature two of them in my 3-2-1 column. Defensive tackle commitments, Corey Wells and Dylan Berryman, I mentioned. Dylan Berryman will be at this game. Corey Wells will not. And the reason I kind of wrote about and reached out to both those guys, well, they've both been flirting with other programs. Corey Wells took a visit to Auburn with his brother. We've talked about this. His brother's committed to South Alabama. He's a linebacker. They brought his brother in on an official visit, and Corey said, "Hey, I'm going to come tag along for the weekend." All right, makes sense. Everybody coming out of that visit thought, okay, he's going to flip to Auburn. He's going to flip to Auburn. That's what Auburn insiders were saying. And people inside the Auburn football department felt good about them flipping him. Well, Texas ends up getting him in Austin for the Sam Houston game. That kind of tightened things up a little bit. They even brought his brother in, talked to his brother about being a preferred walk-on. So I talked to Corey, and listen, Auburn's not going away. He said to me, he goes, I'm still committed to Texas. I'm solid, but Auburn's coming at me hard. I mean, Texas is still going to have to fight to hang on to Corey Wells, but he said all the right things when we talked, this weekend. And I did ask him about the Texas-Florida game. He said, yeah, I watched it. And, those recruits, it's interesting. They don't ever like freak out much when it comes to those games. They're like, okay, I had a bad week. We'll get it going. But, bottom line is, Corey is saying he's still solid with Texas. I know what he's saying, but I also know that Auburn's not going away and he's already visited there. So they're going to have to keep working on him a little bit. Dylan Berryman is interesting. He went to visit Ole Miss. He then came in and visited Texas for that Sam Houston game. Mm-hmm. And then he went back to Ole Miss for another visit. And other schools are talking to him, but he told me this week when we talked, he said, it's really just Texas and Ole Miss are the main ones. He said he's solid. In fact, his quote, Chad, he goes, quote, I said, well, what's going on here? I mean, what's your commitment status? Quote, Ole Miss, I'm not going there. That's all you need to report. End quote. Okay. I get it.
Pretty emphatic.
Yeah, it is. But you visited there twice. And, I still think, hey, these are young teenagers we're talking to and dealing with. So you got to kind of, okay, I know what you're saying, but I'm also following your actions too. Okay, a little bit. But it was interesting in talking to Dylan. We went to a little more in depth on that Florida game. He goes, yeah, I watched it. And again, he goes, hey, I think Texas is just finding their groove. They're young. And I asked him, I said, hey, as a recruit perspective, do you look at that when they lose a game like that? And is it frustrating? Does it impact you? Do you just look at it and say, hey, I want to come in and be part of the solution? And he basically said, yeah, I want to be part of the solution. He said, I watched those defensive linemen get pushed around. And he goes, that's not going to happen to me. He goes, I faced double and triple teams in high school. I still make the plays. Wow. He goes, our group is not going to get pushed around like that, talking about this group of freshmen coming in. So It was interesting to hear him say, hey, he took notice of the way Texas kind of was manhandled in the trenches in that game. And that can be a negative depending on how you view it, but he almost viewed it as a glass half full, saying, hey, that's okay, because that means I can come in and help fix the problem next year from my freshman season.
Yeah, and that mindset is something to remember, I think, for Texas fans, because I think a lot of fans think about it like I do, like, well, the kids are living and dying with it, like some of the fans do. It's not
Never has
what it
been
is.
that way, and fans will never learn. Fans
I
freak
know,
out, and we're going to lose recruits, and
right?
recruiting is going to hell in a handbasket. You know what? And I say that, and we'll circle back to that a little bit more. But for years, Chad, for 20 years, I've been talking to kids after a big loss, and they're like, it's one game. Yeah, Texas will be fine. And fans are like, oh my gosh, fire this guy, and this recruit's leaving, and recruits like, it's one game, it's cool.
Yeah. Speaking of big recruits and the Texas OU game, I have a big question for Jason, for a friend, not for myself. That's coming up. But let me first tell you about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. And John, he is a lifetime Texas guy, 6 siblings and his wife. They're all UT. They're all rooting for Texas against OU every year. Yeah, of course, John was disappointed that they lost to Florida, but he hopes that the humility of the loss will serve to ignite the team to play much harder and better against Oklahoma. God, don't we all, John, this Saturday. John is looking forward to seeing all OB Live fans at the Texas X's tailgate at Fair Park if you're going out to the game. In the meantime, his prediction, Longhorns in a rebound 27-23 over Oklahoma is John's prediction. And he wants to share that optimism with all of you. The free 90-minute private consultation is available to you. Learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. Every Longhorn watching would take 27-23 in a second, Jason.
You know what's funny? Last week, John gave his prediction. And I want to say, and I said on the show, I said, you know what? That's about where I have it. And clearly we were both wrong. I think I had the exact same prediction as John last week when I actually made my prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, I've kind of been thinking about my prediction for this game, of course. And there's some moving parts. I want to talk to some Oklahoma people. I'm hearing John. I heard last night Mateer is going to play. ESPN's now saying he's probably going to play, so that may sway things. But this morning when I woke up, I was exactly at the same numbers John was at, 27-23, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, like John and I are on the same wavelength. Let's hope we're a little more dialed in than we were last week. But I don't know. Like, and I wrote my 3-2-1, my one prediction. I was like, man, Texas hasn't played good football, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? F it. I'm picking Texas to win. Their backs are against the wall.
Yeah.
The Mateer thing makes me a little nervous, but I don't know. I just think this is a must win for Texas. I don't know. Something in my gut tells me Texas is going to get it done against my better judgment, what I've actually seen from these two teams.
Yeah. Jason, I know all these years covering Texas like I have, I know some Longhorn fans that if junior high age kids were suiting up for Texas, they would still pick Texas. Like this week, right? They'll be realistic the rest of the year, but even with a game like last week, I feel like Texas fans have that. They'll get wounded at first, but by the time you get to Friday afternoon in Dallas, they will look you dead in the face and say, I like us by 2 touchdowns. You know, like there's some fans that just do it that way.
Yeah, so like in this game, I mean, all rivalry games, I mean, throw records out the window, but it's kind of true. We've seen some really bad teams play above their head. It just feels like maybe this is a game where Texas kind of, I'm not going to say they're going to go out and play like the number 1 team in the country, like they were ranked in preseason, but maybe they kind of play somewhat up to that level that we know they're capable of. And but even that, it's still going to be a good game. This is a good Oklahoma team, especially if Mateer is playing as I'm kind of expecting.
Maybe Texas needs to be the wounded animal in this game, because that's certainly how they come into it. All right, Jason, before we leave the discussion of recruits and Texas OU, weeks ago, we talked about KJ Edwards, the running back from Carthage, the commit to A&M. He was in College Station last week. The talk had been that he was maybe going to come to Texas OU and then maybe the A&M game in Austin later on. So what about KJ Edwards? Do we know if he's going to be in Dallas?
He's not. I actually communicated with him this morning. He is not going to be at that game on Saturday. We'll see about the Texas A&M game. I think there's a multitude of reasons that go into this. You mentioned he visited Texas A&M. You know, I even said when he told me he was going to go to these games, like, we'll see. You know, he's going to go to A&M. They're going to try to talk him out of it. Well, he just visited A&M, so that probably tightened up his commitment there. Texas and Derrick Cooper seem to be trending pretty well. I mean, he's committed, but they seem to be trending pretty well towards him staying committed. So, that probably plays a part in things. Maybe Texas isn't being quite as aggressive. Bottom line, Chad, he's not going to the game on Saturday. And I encourage people, like, obviously, go read my 3-2-1. I wrote about this game, and not KJ in particular, but this is a big kind of crossroads type game for me. And again, recruiting doesn't hinge on one game. I'm always the guy who says, hey, slow down. One game is not going to make or break anything. But there's a lot going into this game. I mentioned not only, obviously, Texas needs to build some positive momentum on the field, which then can carry over into recruiting. They need to kind of get the national media and talking points out of, like, what's wrong with Texas? What's wrong with Texas? Mm-hmm. You beat Oklahoma this week. This is the top 6 team in the country. I don't think Oklahoma's that good. I think it's a good team. I don't think they're number 6 in the country good. But you know what? But if you beat them, that's what the people will be talking about. They just bounced back and beat the number 6 team in the country and took them down. Okay, maybe Texas is back on track. It keeps your SEC championship games. It keeps your those hopes alive. It keeps your college football playoff hopes alive. The most important thing to me, Chad, I said Texas and Oklahoma don't recruit head-to-head a ton. People think they do. Mm-hmm. They don't really a lot. I mean, Michael Fasusi, notwithstanding. You'd love to have him in Austin right now if you're a Texas fan. But Oklahoma has this upward trajectory going right now. Texas, stumbling. Bigger than that, your Texas A&M Aggies are really on an uptick. They're recruiting really well in the early parts of that 2027 class. Texas and Texas A&M do recruit against each other a lot. A&M just had a big weekend of recruits on campus. Things went really well. The reviews are there extremely positive coming out of that weekend. Texas needs to, I don't want to say win because they're falling behind and they can't afford to fall further behind, but it's kind of true. If we're talking 2027, right now, A&M is kind of the trendy pick. Texas needs some momentum. This is a big game for Texas for a lot of reasons, for standings, to try to get back in the top 25, as crazy as it is to say that out loud. But from a recruiting perspective, this is a big game. A win would really help Texas in building some recruiting momentum or gaining some of that momentum back. A loss, and you're losing even more of that momentum while A&M keeps ascending, Oklahoma keeps ascending. So this is a big game, and it's a big weekend for Texas just from perspective of the way this program is trending compared to your 2 main recruiting rivals.
Yeah, and I'll give you just a little bit of perspective on one position. What if Texas loses this game, the offensive line does not look great again, and Fasusi does?
No.
Just, you know what I mean? Like, just that. Forget about everything else. What if that happens this weekend? You don't want that, right? That would be awful for Texas.
And it's possible. It's not. I mean, we've seen what this offensive line can look like, and this is a really good defensive line. You've heard me say it for 2 years now. I think Fasusi, I don't say generational talent. I said that about Decore Moore, but Fasusi's not far behind. I mean, I think those 2 dudes were 6 stars. People talk about some of these great offensive line coming up. I'm like, I still don't know if they're as good as Fasusi. I had Fasusi on a pedestal just because I think that dude's a super freak. So, that'll be sand in the wound if Texas loses, the offensive line struggles, and Fasusi goes out and holds your guys in check off that edge. Yeah.
All right, let's get to some Q&A stuff every week in the 3-2-1 on orangebloods.com. Jason throws in a lot of great information, and occasionally he asks you guys what you think for some Q&A in recruiting, and we've got some of them this week. So let's start here, Jason. How bad does this slump hurt recruiting? Kind of an overall question to get us started here, but obviously you can see why a fan would be worried about it.
Sure, and I kind of addressed it, but I mean, it's an obvious and fair question, but I said it's not helping. Let's be clear about that. But I've talked to enough committed guys that I don't get a sense that any of them are like, oh, I'm going to possibly peel off my commitment or explore other options because Texas has 2 losses. So we're not there yet. Most of the 2026 recruiting is done, and those guys are committed. You're trying to maybe bring in a couple more. You're trying to keep guys from flipping. I mentioned Corey Wells, Dylan Berryman. Those dudes are saying the right things. But where it can hurt recruiting is that 2027 cycle. Those guys that are still uncommitted, guys that you're trying to compete against A&M and Oklahoma and the Alabamas and Ohio States of the world. So Right now it's not hurting recruiting. If Texas loses this week and maybe, goes 7-5 or 8-4 this year, yeah, it will hurt recruiting. So that's why, again, this is a huge game this weekend. A slump will hurt, especially when the teams you're recruiting against and around your regional recruiting rivals are playing well. Well, that compounds the problem. So it's not hurting yet, but it certainly could if Texas doesn't get this turned around.
All right, Jason, this next one, they're not going to put down this legacy flip idea until the very last minute. So let's get one of those in this week. I feel like we have to every week. A little well-connected DFW media birdie told me that there's a much better chance with Jalen Lott than many realize. What say you, Jason Sukumel?
Well, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, kind of, because I've been saying for 2 months that I've heard from pretty good sourcing that I trust, hey, that door is cracked. And Jalen Lott is not closing Texas out. He did visit for the Sam Houston game. My understanding is that visit didn't sway things and move the needle a ton. He's still pretty solidly committed to Oregon based on the things I've heard, kind of grapevine talk and people that would know. Now, right now, that's my expectation. Jalen Lott is going to sign with Oregon. But I said, I think this could change if Texas comes in and says, hey, we have to have this guy. We have to have his athleticism, his explosiveness. If they come in with a major NIL move and a major NIL offer, I think the door is still open enough where that could sway things. Right now, though, I still lean towards him signing with Oregon.
All right, there you go. Thank you for that question. We'll get to some more Q&A after I tell you once again about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Let's talk about where John's going to be checking out the game and where you can check it out if you're up in the Dallas area. We told you John is a part of the Collin County chapter. They will host their huge official game watching party at Dirty Birds in Plano. We've been telling you about them throughout the year. They're back at Dirty Birds in Plano. So if you're not headed down to the Cotton Bowl, go out to Dirty Birds in Plano if you're in the Dallas area. And as I mentioned earlier, John says if you're headed to the game, he hopes to see you over there at the Dallas Texas X's tailgate over on the fairgrounds. John also wants you to know, if you're an OB Live fan, October is National Financial Planning Month. If you want to initiate a financial planning process or get a second opinion from a CFP on your existing financial plan, John's offering that free 90-minute private consultation, review and analyze your financial picture, help you gauge how strong your current and future financial outlook appears. So check out that free 90-minute consultation, 972-707-4900, or go to longhornwealth.net. Shout out to Longhorn Wealth Management Group. And before I tell you about our watch party, shout out to that Texas X's tailgate. Back in my radio days, I've done plenty of pregame, postgame, hanging out at that Dallas Texas X's tailgate. It's incredible. It's kind of like northwest, I guess, of the Cotton Bowl. If you're looking for over by the museum is usually where they are set up. I've done breakfast tacos there, Jason. I've done barbecue there. I've done a little bit of drinking there. I've done a lot of drinking there. The Texas X's tailgate, it's a good place to hang out. No doubt.
I'm just glad it's not breakfast tacos this year because I like the 2:30 kick. Yeah,
2:30 is awesome. I know they're scared to go nighttime. I think they should, but that's a different discussion. But it needs to sit right where it is. The SEC needs to dictate that this game will never kick at 11 a.m.
From a work perspective, sometimes I like those 11 a.m. kicks because then it's like, oh, right, I'm done working early afternoon. But 2:30 is kind of the sweet spot. I think I told you that at TCH last week. I was like, I can kind of get some stuff done in the morning or watch football or, whatever, get some chores done in the yard or whatever it is. Then I can watch football, and then I still have my night to watch more football. So, love that 2:30.
Like a smart person said to me in radio years ago, work middays if you can. It is the hidden gem of schedules. If you want to come watch the game with us, we're back at TCH Social Austin. Check out the deals. They're back. $2 select drafts. That includes Stella. $3 jellyfish. The Fanatic cocktail's great. I've had that. That's $4. $12 for the 8 wings. People are really digging the wings. Come on out and check it out on the biggest video wall in the ATX. Obviously, our focus will be Texas OU, but there is one other game going on in that 2:30 window that everybody's going to want to peek in on, and it's a Big Ten game. Indiana at Oregon is a 2:30 as well. Since Oregon got the big win at Penn State, now we really focus in on them. That Indiana team, are they good enough to go out to Outson and get that done, that game will be going on at the same time. So we'll have that going on at TCH. So
what time is this is random? What time are your Aggies play Florida? What time is that game?
That is a 6 o'clock kick.
Evening game. Okay.
That's a 6 o'clock. Is that an ABC game? I want to say that ended up. No, the ESPN. That's that 6 o'clock ESPN kick.
Curious to see if Florida can kind of build on what they established last week, or do they come crashing back down to earth? Which if they come crashing back down to earth, that's a bad omen for Texas. So.
Yeah, we'll see what that game turns into. I think that may be a little bit of a scoring. A&M may need to score a little. Like last week they needed to, and eventually they did, but their offense gets stuck for about a quarter and a half sometimes. And I'm wondering if Florida can kind of do what they did to Texas. Get a lead. You'd be you're on the road this time, but freak that crowd out a little bit. Get them a little nervous. And then see if you can, get that DJ Lagway again, and see if you can show Dallas Wilson off again. Because if that starts to happen, then maybe Florida can do it. So that is an interesting game. And I think the kick time will help the Aggies. Late games like that at home obviously can help you out. So I think that could help them. All right, let's get some more questions, and we'll go right to offensive line because obviously Texas fans didn't like what they saw there, Jason. So any indication Texas is increasing efforts in O-line recruiting?
Yeah, my answer to that was not yet. If you listen to Sark speak on Monday, I kind of get the impression like the entire staff is like still trying to process what happened in Gainesville last weekend.
Yeah, maybe some shock.
Some shock.
Yeah.
Maybe they think, hey, that was a one-off, and like, okay, we're going to get things back on track. That was a big misstep, but we're better than that. So there's always been an effort. They want to add another offensive lineman, maybe even a couple if they could find them. I don't know who that would be. We keep hearing Malachi Lee's name mentioned, the Michigan commit, Hawaii kid that's committed to Michigan. But right now, I think that midseason, man, there's no quick fix. I mean, they're focused on righting the ship and getting this current group going, getting them developed. But yeah, they do need to increase their efforts in recruiting. I think that probably happens as much in the portal in January as it does with this 2026 class, which is mostly, their minds are all made up. But, they're still looking. They would love to have at least one more addition to this class. But I don't think in the few days following that Florida game, they've suddenly been like, oh my gosh, let's reach out to 50 new offensive linemen. No, I think they're going to be aggressive with the guys they've been talking to, a guy like Malachi Lee. But I haven't sensed a major change just yet in their offensive line recruiting.
All right, so the questions are not done with offensive line, but we'll circle back around for the last one. Two more, and then we'll wrap up, Jason. This one is all about Derrick Cooper. I have heard some folks say that on some other boards, there's chatter that Cooper is going to decommit. Any truth to this, Jason?
First off, don't pay attention to other boards. Shame on you.
What are you doing? Good grief. How dare you?
I don't know where that chatter is coming from. I don't know if it's fans or media members or what, but
just go to this one. This is
exactly. That's all you need right there.
What are you doing?
My answer to that is that, it's not impossible that he flips his commitment to decommits, but I am not in agreement with that chatter. Okay. What I've heard is from Cooper himself, from people close to him, he feels really good about his Texas commitment. He took his Texas official visit 2 weekends ago. I've heard that went really, really well. I've heard the confidence in Miami is dipping, if anything. Rumor mill, I put it in our rumor mill. There's no way to really confirm this because nobody's going to talk about it, but there was rumor that Texas sweetened an already sweet NIL deal when he was in for his official visit. So I don't know for sure if that's true, but that rumor has crossed my desk. So listen, never say never, man. Things can always change, but the things I've heard the last few weeks are pointing more positive for Texas than negative. Now, listen, he's going to go to that game this week, and I need to confirm. I'm going to work on that, so keep it on Orange Bloods. But last check, he is going to the game this weekend. Texas could help itself by, actually run blocking somebody, opening up some running lanes for these backs, because you don't want him going to that game and watching the game against Florida last week and being like, what the hell? This is the offense I'm going into? I mean, there's no daylight to be found. So, I think Texas could help itself dramatically this weekend. But I haven't heard that he's about to decommit. In fact, I've heard the opposite. I've heard things are a little more solid than maybe they were a month and a half ago.
Interesting. All right, we'll finish up, Jason, with one. I'm assuming this question would exist for every Texas fan that watched the Florida game. These three positions are blinking at them. Can we expect a lot more activity at running back, offensive line, and wide receiver via the portal for 2026? Seems to me we need a total overhaul on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree they need a total overhaul, but I said, my answer to that is there damn well better be more activity at offensive line and maybe even running back and wide receiver. I mean, if you get Derrick Cooper, that can solve a lot of your running back problems. He gives you that explosive home run threat. Offensive line, you got to find some portal players because no matter who you recruit in this 2026 class, they're not going to be your answer. I mean, they're the Kelvin Banks of the world who can come in as a true freshman and really help improve your line are very few and far between. So they've got to get some portal offensive line help. Wide receiver, I agree. They could use more explosiveness at wide receiver, certainly. But, you've got Jalen Lott out there as a possibility we talked about. I'm not giving up on Ryan Wingo. I think Ryan Wingo is still going to be a really good player. Parker Livingston, some of these freshmen are going to continue to develop. But could you use a Matthew Golden? Could you use, some experienced, explosive weapons, out of the portal at wide receiver? Absolutely. I think that'll be something Texas looks for. But yeah, at offensive line, to me, that's the most glaring, most obvious. You need a quick fix at offensive line more than you do anywhere else. And if you do that, it gives Arch more time. Your quarterback looks better. Your running game looks better. Your receivers have more time to get more separation. So, it all kinds of starts up front. We always hear that. So, yeah, I would fully expect more activity, especially at offensive line in the portal.
Yeah, if you can't block, not a whole lot else matters. And this week specifically, Jason, I am watching this offensive line. Can they block? Number 32 for Oklahoma. I said that a month ago. I said it when I watched them play Michigan. I said it when I watched them play Auburn, that those Texas tackles better be ready for number 32, R. Mason Thomas. That's the guy to me that can take this game over for OU. If he's really loud in this game, I think that's awful for Texas. So they got to block better. We know that. All right, so there's the last of the Q&A. Jason, anything else before we close up?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, just keep an eye on Orange Bloods. We'll have an updated visitor list for this weekend. There's a couple other guys I talked to that we'll have notes on them throughout the week. So we'll have more recruiting notes and obviously coverage of the big game throughout the week. So.
Yeah, there's always something cool in the war room, but there's something about that Thursday night before OU. I always enjoy going through that war room. I feel like there's just always some great little nuggets, and the insiders are talking a little differently, and the sources are talking a little differently because this game is so different from everything else. So definitely check out the War Room Thursday night at Orange Bloods. And like Jason said, check out all the other stuff, Rumor Mills and Truth and Lies and the message board, trying to figure out what's going on with Texas. And if you're headed up to Dallas, be safe getting to and from, but enjoy it. Texas OU, a truly unique experience. Thanks to John and the Longhorn Wealth Management team. Shout out to that crew up at Dirty Birds in Plano this weekend. Hope they have a good time. To the Texas X's over there at the tent on the fairgrounds. That is always a great time. Hopefully they get a good game to see with it as well. Until next week, it will still be SEC rolling next week. Is it Kentucky first or Mississippi State? Kentucky first,
Kentucky
right?
and Mississippi State, yeah.
Kentucky, which is a night game now. Speaking of good news for a home team, that's bad news for Texas. That's a night game one way or the other. It's either 6:30 or 6:45, something like that.
Listen, it better not matter at Kentucky, because if you're worried about Kentucky, then oh boy.
Yeah. But it just gets a little better for Stoops. If I'm Texas, I'd want to go play that at 11 a.m. is what I would, I'd love to go in there and make it a lazy kind of day. Now they get to just get hammered on Kentucky whiskey all day and, be ready to roll. So we'll see what that looks like. But we'll be getting ready for that one and all the recruiting news that is worth talking about. Jason will get it to you next week. Recruiting Hour, we premiere Wednesdays at 10 a.m. If you're listening to us at that spot, we thank you so much. Whenever you're checking us out, we thank you as well. Like, subscribe, get your notifications. This is the Recruiting Insider on Orange Bloods Live. Until next week, see ya.